Hello friends, welcome to this discussion of essay of UPSC question paper 2019. Now we'll take up essay number 7. I will briefly discuss with you what this essay means, the structure of the essay, and I'll give you some hints and ideas which you can use to answer this essay. I won't go much in detail, but I will briefly explain you these things. The topic is biased media is a real threat to Indian democracy. I repeat, biased media is a real threat to Indian democracy. Compared to other topics, this topic was easier to understand. There are three main parts of this topic: biased media, democracy, and threat. You can start from any of these three. You can start either from media or you can start from democracy. We can start with what democracy is. We can briefly explain that democracy believes in the idea of sharing power among people themselves. The people themselves select who will rule over them. People will select their boss, and people will decide what matters the government should take up. That the ultimate power should rest with the people, as in elections, it's the people who will vote for a political party. But on what basis they will vote? They will vote on the basis of what they believe is good for them, which political party is doing the good work for them. Now, their belief is founded on what they know. So, here comes the importance of knowledge, importance of awareness about what are the things important for them and about which political party is more serious in getting those things done. Now, this awareness of which political party is good for them, it is being created by media. So now you can explain the importance of media, that how media is important to formulate opinion among people. It is important to even raise issues of interest. It is media not only decides the opinion, but it also decides what issues needs to be discussed in the public discourse. So in this way, media plays a great role in influencing people in deciding which government they should vote for. Hence, media is very important. Now you can come to the third part of this essay, that is the threat. The threat is that this media is biased. This media is biased and it's not doing its work properly. So whatever rules you had highlighted earlier, that these are the important rules which media need to do with respect to our democracy, these rules are not being performed properly because it is biased. What biased means is that a media, it owes its loyalty to a particular party. It presents the facts, it presents the opinions on those facts in a particular manner which favors a particular party or which goes against a political party. That is, it is not presenting the facts and opinions in a free and fair manner, but it is doing that keeping in mind the gain which their political bosses will get out of it. So this is what means that biased media is a threat to Indian democracy. Now, after explaining these things, now we can go in detail. We can, for example, discuss that why media is becoming biased, or we can discuss how media is becoming biased, and then occasionally we can relate this to how this is posing a threat to democracy, that how this is antithetical to the very ideas of democracy or the which we had discussed in the beginning. So we can suggest, for example, that in these days we see a growing trend where the political parties, many members of the major political parties, they have ownership in many media houses, news channels. So these news channels, they just act as mouthpiece of their owners. This control of political parties over the media houses, either it can be explicit or it can be implicit. It's not necessary that every time they would be owning some shares. There can also be a nexus through capitalists, that is, some industrialists, which who favor a particular political party. They may be the source of revenue for these news houses. So these news channels will only give you that news which favors, which projects a positive image of that political party. I will suggest, one thing where I want to draw your attention towards is that this essay, the difficult part in this essay is that when we discuss all these things, we should avoid taking the names of news channels, and we should try to avoid taking the names of political parties also. We should talk in a way that it should not look like as if we are giving a rant against, we are just throwing our anger, showing our anger against a political party. No, that is not what we should do. So be very careful when you write essays on such political issues. So we were discussing that how politicians, they understand the importance of media in formulating public opinion, and how politicians, instead of focusing on their work, instead of focusing on doing something constructive for the public, and instead of being afraid from doing something wrong, they know that it's easier to invest their energies in infiltrating their influence in media houses. So they are not afraid of media, nor they have any sense of reward that they will get by doing good work. All what matters to them is that they should expand their sphere of influence in media houses. Also, when we are criticizing the politicians for doing that, it's not just the state and the politicians and the political system which is doing so. There are also some inherent weaknesses in the media houses, in the media community itself, where we can draw the attention to. For example, the world is moving towards consumerism, materialism. There is a fall in our ethical standards, and news industry is also being run just like any other business. That is, it is also being run solely for profit model. And now, when it is run for profit model, then the TRP hungry news channels, they will really, what they will really bother is the sensationalization of news, and what brings them greater TRP, what brings them greater revenue, what gives them profit. So media community also needs to rise above this tendency to bother too much about profit. Finally, we can also draw a hint towards the audience. That is, we audience also need to be, we also need to look into ourselves, that if we pressurize the media, how do we pressurize the media? By providing it an viewership. Providing viewership to a media is in the hands of the audience. So it is for the audience to decide whether it wants to see issues such as what a 2-month-old baby of a star couple ate in the breakfast, or we want to see serious issues like farmer suicides, corruption, unemployment, these kind of things in our media channels. So the solution has to come from all these areas, from the state also, that is the political system also, from within the media houses also, and from the audience also. But as I often say, don't give too much focus on giving suggestions unless you have sufficiently explained the topic of the essay. The topic of the essay, which was that you have to show that how media is biased in our country, and how that biasness is weakening the democratic structure. Now, as I said earlier also, what is this democratic structure? What are these principles of democracy which you can relate here? Some principles which we discussed were related to the people themselves choosing who will rule over them. There are some other principles also, such as the spirit of brotherhood, the spirit of equality, the harmony, these feelings amongst the people. Now, when some political parties, uh, they want to pitch up the emotions of one community against the other. They want to be divisive. If they want to increase hatred in the in the citizens, then they will use media houses, and the media houses will also show some events with a twist, with a complete 180-degree twist, which will completely distort the reality, so that some communities, they remain in perpetual conflict with each other. When we're discussing these things, we can also mention that today's the credibility of news media has really dipped very low. And today, uh, a minor tussle between two families a personal tussle between two families, a conflict between two families, it can be shown as if it is a communal conflict, or as if it's a riot, as if it's a result of some communal tensions, or vice versa, that a news channel can pass off as a communal conflict as a trivial matter, as if it's just a family conflict. We never know what is the truth. And even if we know, we just can't rely on that, because, as we say, the credibility is falling down. So, when media lose its credibility, when media lose its neutrality, then politicians will gain. And what politicians will do? They will do a lot of things which are antithetical to democratic principles. As I said, they will pitch up one community against the other. They will be divisive. They will spread hatred, disharmony, and all these things. And most important part is that people will not be informed properly about which political party is doing the right thing for them and what are the right issues for them. Even these things the citizens won't be able to be aware of. Now, we can also mention certain things like we are living in a very paradoxical situation where, on the one hand, we see growing authoritarian or growing centralization of power on the one hand. On the other hand, we see that there is anarchy, there is chaos, and there is there is a spirit of separatism which is running down, which is a threat to our country. So, threat to democracy, it comes from both the quarters, both sides. Authoritarian dictators, even they pose a threat to our democratic structure, and those who are vouching for separatism, anarchy, chaos, even they pose a threat to our democracy. So we are between the devil and the deep sea, and it is a media which can act as a lighthouse and show us the path. And so this is how I'm moving towards a conclusion. And somewhere you can also give some examples of how media have done some good roles, though they have been exceptions in the recent past. For example, media brought up a number of scams. It uncovered a number of scams, and also we have seen that how media has raised up the issue of gender equality and women's safety time and again. So there's some positive work is also being done by media, and media has shown at times that it is neutral and that it is ready to take up arms against the some political parties that they're not doing right things. So but these are silver linings, these are rays of hope. And you can also give example from our history towards the end to show the importance of media, that how Mahatma Gandhi, how Bal Gangadhar Tilak, they got their strength from media. And if media was not ethical in those days, then it would never have been possible for these nationalist leaders to reveal the true nature of the colonial rulers. And lastly, we can say that in today's time, the importance of media has even increased further because of 24 by 7 nature of TV channels, the growing internet broadband connectivity, and the way news channels have penetrated our daily life from our bedroom to our kitchens to our office to our tea parlors and all. So with this, I will end up here. In this way, towards the end, you can end this discussion. So, and this essay. So I hope this essay was beneficial to you. You can drop in your comments to my email address and the phone number, which has been listed here in the details section. Thank you.